Hey everybody, Chuck Esposito, Jason McCormick, our buddy Teaser for another segment of Bookends. We're going to dive right into it this week, guys. We'll get college football first. Now, there's so much uncertainty from week to week, but I know you wanted to chat about the Virginia Tech game. Tech comes off a 4-game losing streak. Last time they lost at home to Virginia was 1998. They were a very small favorite in this game, Jay.
Yeah, talk about two teams that have really been heading in opposite directions over the last several weeks. Virginia's kind of caught fire with 4 straight wins, not something the Virginia team is really used to. Virginia Tech on the other side of things, 4 straight losses, coming off the loss to Clemson. Virginia Tech had actually won the last 15 matchups in this matchup until last year. Virginia was finally able to break the ice. I think it was a 33-30 victory or 39-30 victory. Virginia finally able to get a win. I just think this is one of those rivalry matchups, East Coast matchup. I just think that this is an interesting game to see if Virginia Tech can kind of change their season and get a win here. I think a win here potentially would put them with maybe somebody looking at them from a bowl standpoint. Right. If Virginia Tech doesn't get the win here, I doubt that they'll get invited to a bowl. So, but despite the fact that they've lost 4 straight games, obviously Virginia coming to town, the rivalry that's there, a game that they can really get their season right, and losing this game would probably make this season a really, really bad season for them. Virginia, on the other hand, like we said, this team is flying high, 4 straight wins, not something the program is used to doing, and obviously ending with a win over Virginia Tech in back-to-back years after losing this contest 15 straight times would really be big for that program.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a huge rivalry game. There's no question at all, and we'll see how it works out, them being a small favorite. I'm going to jump to the Big Ten. Unfortunately, not the Big Ten game I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the Michigan-Ohio State game, but we know that game's been canceled, so a lot of question marks with Ohio State, and would they qualify for the Big Ten championship? I think they've made some amendments to the rules there, and it looks like they're going to be able to. They're going to play, I think, Northwestern and have an opportunity to. I'm going to look at Iowa and Wisconsin. I mean, you look at this game, and it's all about D with these two teams. We talk about so many college teams that just score at a high clip and high totals, and you look at Wisconsin, who leads the nation in total D. They're just a dominant defensive team. Almost in every defensive category, they are number 1. The problem is they don't score. They've gone back-to-back games this year where they rushed for less than 160 yards. That hasn't happened since 2016. You think about the guys at the next level, if it's a Ron Dane, a Jonathan Taylor, all these guys who have played in the NFL who came from that Wisconsin tree of running backs. That just hasn't been the case this year. They're a very small favorite against Iowa, but defense is going to reign supreme in this game.
Yeah, and we talked about Wisconsin last week. We actually highlighted the fact that Indiana was a live dog going to Wisconsin, that that offense has really struggled against Northwestern. Didn't think they would struggle as much as they did against Indiana, but Wisconsin just hasn't
Especially
had
the backup quarterback in that game.
They haven't played a lot of games. Cohen got hurt in their kind of preseason. They've gone to the young man Mertz, who had a good game out of the box, but really that offense has really struggled. It becomes an interesting matchup. Iowa has been all over the map, hit or miss on their schedule, and like you said, this is a kind of a pick 'em game. So it'll see which team shows up. But Wisconsin really has to right the ship on offense.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, you talk about, again, so many teams that score points. This game's going to be one of those defensive battles. I mean, you're going to be looking at a very low-scoring game. It'll be cold, and just kind of anxious to see how who ends up prevailing in this game. Very small favorite. Whiskey's only played, I think, 4 games. They're 2-2, so a very limited schedule so far, but the offense clearly hasn't got on track. I think you're going to jump out west now and look at a big rivalry. I mean, this is one of the best rivalries in college football. They've played for 90 years, the rivalry is, and that's USC and UCLA.
Yeah, not talking about teams that have struggled on offense, 2 teams that have been putting up points each and every week. UCLA with a big upset win at Arizona State last week. Dorian Thompson-Robinson made his return, played a good game. USC has actually won this game, I think, 16 of the last 19 times, including a big win last year, 52-35. That saw Slovis just throw the ball up and down the field. And USC comes off the kind of a short week, got to play a Sunday afternoon matinee game where they absolutely destroyed Washington State. USC comes into this game with the ability, they win this, they're going to be playing in that Pac-12 championship. I think it's against the Oregon-Washington winner. So this is a big game for them, obviously, with the rivalry that's there coming back. But one thing from a UCLA standpoint, their struggles have been in turnovers, from a standpoint of a lot of bad turnovers that lead the other teams in the game. But UCLA, this year, their defense has been really, really good. I think they're on 3 straight games with allowing 2 touchdowns or less. So that's a kind of a high
USC
note.
had 2 touchdowns in their first 2 drives last week.
Well, like I said, they put a whooping on Washington State on that Sunday game. So I just think this becomes obviously a huge rivalry game. 2 teams vastly familiar with each other. UCLA, I think the last week was the first time they've won in December. Obviously, one of the things when we look at the college football schedule, normally we wouldn't be having pretty much any college football games this weekend as we sit on December 12th. This would be a college basketball weekend, and we'd be starting the bowl games next week. So with the COVID stuff, we've pushed back. We actually, the Army-Navy game is mixed in with all the rest of the conference games, and so we get a little bit of college football later in the year. But UCLA hadn't had a whole lot of December wins in their history, so last week's win over Arizona State was a big win for the program, and you just feel like they're getting there. Chip Kelly's finally getting this offense going, but really it's been on the defensive side of the football, and see if they can slow down this USC high-powered offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to touch on the Army-Navy game as well. I mean, it's such a rivalry, just the spirit of the game, the history, the competitiveness. These 2 schools, when they get together, it's just an unbelievable atmosphere. And you think about the fact that this is the first time since 1943 that Army is hosting the game. The game's at West Point, not on a neutral site. So you can only imagine the atmosphere there. I mean, you'll have the midshipmen on one side, the cadets on the other, but a game at West Point, first time since 1943, it's got to be cool. I mean, it'd be on my bucket list to attend a game like that. I love watching it. Even when it's a standalone game, the handle's great, but I think because of the history and tradition, you're still going to see a great handle on this game.
Yeah, and hopefully Navy, they haven't played particularly well, and this is a game that we talk about throwing out the record. And,
absolutely.
But Army's been very, very good this year, and Navy struggled to lift. You got Army touchdown favorite in the game, but there's a lot of really good games on the schedule this week. We kind of highlight some of the rivalry games, but this week is loaded up with a lot of good college football.
I've got one more too. I think it's the North Carolina-Miami game, big ACC game. Carolina comes into this game 7-3, Miami 8-1, with still some hopes of maybe sneaking into that bowl championship picture. It's a revenge game for Miami, who got beat last year. 28-25 to Carolina. They're looking for their 6th straight win, and they're 4-0 at home, and they're a small favorite in that game. So I think that's one of the key matchups for the week as well.
Yeah, and we jumped ahead. One of the things that we looked at this week is the big matchups that we already have next week. So the Big 12 championship, the ACC championship, the SEC championship, we actually already put those games up. So Oklahoma, Iowa State, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Alabama, Florida. Go ahead and click on the app all the way down at the bottom of the college football. You'll find those games for December 19th if you want to get an early look at those championship games.
Yeah, we've been putting a lot of stuff up earlier like that throughout the course of the year. So, guys, always keep an eye on that because we're trying to kind of feature some of those big matchups coming up. I think we've done some college football work now. We're going to jump to pro football and look at this week. And there's some good games on the schedule this week. We're going to talk about first the Kansas City Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins. I know you want to look at that game. I mean, it's a surprising Miami Dolphins. I mean, they're a playoff team right now. It doesn't matter if it's Fitz or Tua. That defense has been lights out. Kansas City, they're on the road. They're a touchdown favorite. They've got the Saints coming up the following week. But I think interesting here now, the Steelers lose. They're 11-1. Kansas City's 11-1. Pittsburgh is still the number 1 seed in the AFC. But, man, Kansas City is right there. This is a big road test for them, knowing they've got the Saints coming up the following week.
Yeah, we've seen Kansas City just continue to put up points. We started with the that Buccaneer game where Tyreek Hill had the huge first half, and they on offense have everything going for them, and it's you're scared to almost bet against them, knowing Mahomes and Kelsey, and they can essentially do whatever they want. But they've actually their last 4 games, they haven't won a game by more than 6 points. They just come off beating the Broncos by 6. There are 3 games before that. I think they beat Carolina by 2, Tampa by 3, and had another, maybe it was the Raiders, a win by 3. So they haven't particularly blown anybody out. Now they're a 7-point favorite at Miami.
And they struggled on a Sunday night or against the Broncos.
Right.
They were in the red zone a number of times and couldn't punch it in.
Miami has been kind of a darling team that has kind of gotten everybody looking at them. I'm not sold on them yet. We're talking about a team that in the last several weeks has beat the Jets twice, beat Cincinnati without a quarterback, got a bunch of turnovers against the Rams. They went and lost to Denver at Denver. So I'm not 1,000% sold on Miami yet. If they can come out and play really good football here and potentially beat this Chiefs team, then I put them in that picture. But I still think this is a matchup that the Chiefs can kind of really dictate the pace. This secondary for the Dolphins has not seen anything like they're going to see this week. And you mentioned one of the big we'll call it handicapping tips this week. If you like the Dolphins, and one reason to really like the Dolphins is that the Chiefs play the Saints next week. So if there's any type of look ahead, and we've talked about the Saints and the Chiefs right now, I think that would be a Super Bowl preview. If there's a look ahead spot, the Chiefs are in a classic look ahead spot this week. Looking forward to the Saints. So maybe they overlook the Dolphins, but I think with the struggles that they had in the red zone against Denver last week, I think that the Chiefs have a big effort here.
Yeah, I think you talked about the easy schedule that Miami's had of late. It gets a lot tougher, not just this week, but they travel to come out here to Vegas next week to play the Raiders. So Raiders have a couple of big games as well, but kind of interesting, kind of quirking the schedule right now that easy schedule gets a lot tougher down the stretch for the Dolphins. I'm going to look at a big game between two wildcard teams in the NFC, and that's the Buccaneers and the Vikings. Vikings now, I think they've won 5 in a row, and 5 of their last 6. They're on a 2-game winning streak. The Bucs have been a little bit of a disappointment, though. They're 7-5, back-to-back losses. They're just a wild card team. You know, they need to kind of right the ship a little bit. But, you know, they're coming off their bye. Brady has not played well. Arians has been critical of his play. It looks like they're starting to get healthy. Godwin had the 10 pins removed. He should be a little bit better. I've got an interesting trend here with these two teams. You look at the Vikings. They are 17-5-1. Their last 23 games over. And under Bruce Arians, the Bucs are 19-9 over. So we talked about in college a game that could be a dead under. There could be a lot of scoring in this game because trends are that these two teams are historically now on a huge over streak.
Well, for the Vikings, the last 2 weeks haven't looked particularly good. They kind of snuck by home wins both over the Panthers and the Jaguars, two teams that you would expect them to kind of be able to beat up on. Dalvin Cook has been all-world, absolutely incredible. You kind of want Cousins to just manage the game for you,
right,
not commit those turnovers. He had to play the week against Carolina without Adam Thielen, so they did it with some other weapons in Jefferson and Rudolph, and a little bit more of Cook out of the backfield. Thielen comes back this past week against Jacksonville, and I know he scores another touchdown. So they have the offensive weapons. Again, with the turnovers is really what you have to stop Kirk Cousins from doing, getting sacked and turning over, and they should be able to stay in the game. I just think that this is a spot you talked about. Even the Buccaneers talked about having their bye week in week 13, and that they were a little bit worn down and looking forward to that bye week. So I think that bye week probably does best for a team that has a quarterback in his 40s. So I think that if we're expecting to see a good Tom Brady, this would be a week where we see a good Tom Brady. And that secondary for the Vikings is a young secondary that's struggled to tackle here and there, and now have to be able to cover all those weapons in Brown and Evans and Godwin and Gronkowski coming at them. So this could be a really good spot for the Bucs.
Yeah, you would hope so. I think they need to kind of get on a little bit of a roll before the postseason. It's obvious they're probably not going to catch the Saints right now, just based on tiebreakers as well. Even if the Saints lost a few, they'd still have the edge. So I think it's a huge game for Tampa coming out of their bye. Now we're going to look at an NFC game between those Saints. The Saints are on a 9-game winning streak. They're playing the Eagles, who are on a 4-game losing streak. They're making a change at quarterback. It's Jalen Hurts right now. And as we've talked about, maybe a little bit of a look-ahead game for the Saints as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to start there, I think one of the only ways you can like the Eagles in this game is that you're thinking that the Saints are looking ahead to that matchup with the Chiefs next week. Obviously, the Eagles go ahead and make the change at quarterback, much like the Saints were forced to do 3 weeks ago. We're going to see Hurts instead of Wentz. He came in the game late last week against the Packers. Obviously, some more energy on that offensive side of the ball. They were able to move it down, doing a little bit more read option with Hurts out of that backfield, but definitely brought some excitement to that Eagle offense that's just been stagnant with Wentz in there. He's had Carson Wentz, that is. It's just had a terrible, terrible season. Been sacked more than anybody else in the NFL, has more interceptions than anybody in the NFL. But that can't all be on Carson Wentz. There's a problem here with the Eagles haven't been healthy in their receiving core. They haven't had all their receivers there. Their offensive line has been in shambles all season long. And so Jalen Hurts is not going to overcome those things. He still has the same receivers, the same poor offensive line going up against this Saints defense that's been absolutely dominant over the last 5 weeks or so. Played really, really well against Tom Brady and the Bucs. I think they picked him off three times. They've embarrassed Matt Ryan twice over the last 3 weeks, and obviously kind of got the gift in traveling to Denver without a quarterback. But this is a Saints offense or a Saints defense that's really, really good, and the offense is doing nothing but get better each and every week. under Hill. He's learning. He finally threw his first touchdown passes last week. They're able to run the ball. They're able to pass the ball. There's a reason why they're the NFC favorite right now to make the Super Bowl. They really could dictate this game in any way they want to. Eagles defense hasn't been able to stop the run. It could be we could see Kamara and Murray and whatever the Saints want to do. It's just a matter of slow down a little bit and know that the Saints are going to be playing the Chiefs next week, and there should be an elevated excitement level for the Eagles to try and play well under Hurts and play a good game. But I just don't know that they have enough tools in the bag.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Saints, it's been somewhat of a blessing a little bit. You never want to see a player get hurt, but Sean Payton has always said that Hill is his guy, that he thinks he's an NFL caliber quarterback. And they came out today and he said, hey, if we don't have Drew Brees next year, if he chooses to retire, Hill's our guy. So, I mean, even though they went out and signed Jameis Winston in the offseason, he's just been holding a clipboard. I mean, you look at Hill and his running game, he adds that extra dimension that a Mahomes has or a Russell Wilson or Lamar Jackson. Just if he can become that pocket passer a little bit, I think, Sean Payton clearly believes in him. And it's interesting with Jalen Hurts because you talked about the Saints had to make that quarterback change, but they had to make it because Brees was hurt. The Eagles are making this change, but they just signed before the season Carson Wentz to a 4-year, $158 million deal that doesn't kick in until next year. So if Hurts comes in and say they run the table at the end of the season, they really have a major dilemma because you can't even cut Carson Wentz after the season. I think it's a $60 million close to in dead money cap hit. Even if they trade him, it's a huge cap hit. So they've got a major problem if Hurts comes in and plays well, although you want him to play well.
Yeah, this was a difficult decision, I'm sure, for Peterson. I mean, he's in a no-win situation. The Eagles, they do have a chance in the NFC East with the fact that division has been so poor. They still can catch the Giants, and the offense is just going nowhere week after week after week under Wentz. But again, I don't think it's a Carson Wentz issue.
No,
I
agree.
think it's an offensive issue. It's a play calling issue, and it's just a natural health and number of players issue. They just, like I said, they don't have the tools in the shed.
He hasn't looked as good though, Wentz. I mean, as he did a couple of years ago
that
injury.
You start to get gun shy. You
He's
start to get a
definitely
little
lost some confidence.
When you take a beating each and every week and have all that pressure in your face all the time, and your offense is going nowhere. So now he has to try and make things happen on his own. He's got to try and force balls into areas, and that's when mistakes happen. And so, I think, I think I read that Aaron Rodgers even thinks that, Carson Wentz can be a quarterback in this league, and is going to be a good quarterback in this league. It's just that, unfortunately, the Eagles' offense has been a mess all season.
You mentioned it. I mean, Goddard's been hurt. Ertz has been hurt for a long time. Young receivers in Rigor and Fulgham. So they really haven't had their weapons there.
Miles Sanders has been in and out of the lineup. I mean, there's really just been no continuity to this Eagles offense.
I'm going to jump to the AFC now, and it's the Indianapolis Colts who travel here to Vegas to play the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a big game for the Raiders. I mean, they're 7-5 right now. They had the miracle win against the Jets. We know what happened there with the all-out blitz and Ruggs. You could see that play from 20 yards away, that he was looking up before they even showed the ball, that you knew it was going to be a touchdown. But it's a big game for the Raiders. The Raiders have 3 straight home games now, and 2 of those games are teams they're chasing in the wild card spot, and that's the Colts and the Dolphins. So they have to win at least one of the 2, if not both. They've got games against the Broncos and Chargers as well, but 3 straight home games. But ironically for the Raiders, they've been a much better road team than they have a home team. They're 5-2 on the road. They're only 2-3 at home, but they've had a much more difficult home schedule. They're a home dog again. They've only been the favorite once at home this year, and that was against Denver. Every other game they've played against the Bucs, the Saints, the Chiefs, the Bills. They've had a really tough home schedule. So this is a game I think the Raiders really look to maybe get healthy and come away with a win, which would bode well for them in the playoffs. But since 2016, they are 9-16-3 during the second half of the season. So they really need to right the ship. Last year they went 1-5. This year they've had the struggle. They lost at Atlanta, came back and won against the Jets, but easily could have lost that game. It's a huge game for the Raiders.
Yeah, and that's why the Colts are that road favorite. You talked about the loss in Atlanta and then kind of struggling against the winless Jets. Colts come in. Rivers has been playing much better. You got the resurgence of T.Y. Hilton, who gives them a dangerous receiver on that back end to go in with those running backs of Taylor and Hines and Wilkins, and their defense has really been been their catalyst all year long. That Colts defense is very, very good, and they've got Leonard and some of the pieces back that they've been missing. And this is a quasi playoff game for both of these teams. I mean, this is going to be a large game in determining who makes the playoffs and who doesn't make the playoffs. Obviously, with the Titans' big loss to the Browns last week and the Colts being able to beat the Texans, the Colts have put themselves in a better situation. But this is a big game, and that's why you see them being the road favorite, I think, really because the Raiders' struggles over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's a huge game for the Raiders. I think they really have to win, as I mentioned, one of those two games against the Colts or Dolphins to have a chance at that wild card. The Dolphins play Kansas City this week, so they might get the Dolphins to lose there. Cleveland plays on Monday night, and they're a small dog to Baltimore. So some of the teams they're chasing.
Yeah, the schedule, I believe there's 10 home dogs this week on the schedule, which I don't ever remember an NFL schedule doing. And I think a lot of that has to do, again, with the COVID and the lack of fans. And obviously, if that road team can come in, isn't playing in those crazy home environments as we sit here in mid-December.
Right.
So, but yeah, when I was looking at the schedule, the number of home dogs, I don't know that I've ever seen an NFL schedule.
Teaser's happy.
As many home dogs. Yeah, I'm sure we'll be needing plenty of them.
Right. We're going to look at the two primetime games now, guys. And the first one, I think, is probably the marquee game of the week. And that's the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo looked so good this past week on primetime against the 49ers. Josh Allen, 4 touchdowns. He's definitely in the MVP race right now, maybe even ahead of Russell Wilson. Kind of interesting fact for the Steelers, though. This is their third game in 12 days. Maybe it showed a little bit against Washington when they played on Monday, the Washington football team. But Buffalo comes into this game a small favorite. A week ago, Steelers were the favorite, but again, 3 games in 12 days.
Yeah, and the Steelers have made it known, and they've kind of been a little bit kind of crying about it that they're playing the 3 games in 12 days. So they've been frustrated by the NFL schedule makers and the things that they've had to do due to these changing circumstances of COVID. Obviously, coming off the loss to Washington, didn't have all the pieces of the puzzle as they didn't have James Conner in that game, and it really showed on the offensive side of the ball where I think Roethlisberger dropped back to pass 53 times in that game, and that's not Pittsburgh Steeler football. They want to be able to run the ball and set up the pass, and they've got a plethora of those weapons on the outside. You never know who they're going to go to, whether it's Schuster or Johnson or Claypool or Ebron. So
Washington,
he's got all the weapons in the world, and I expect that this could be a good spot for them. Washington or Buffalo does have a very good secondary, good pass rush, but they are going to get James Conner back. They were a 1-point favorite in this game until the loss to Washington, and then subsequently Buffalo looking good against the Niners, and now the Bills have moved to a 2.5-point favorite. So we'll see if that kind of loss shakes the Steelers back up and gets them playing. But again, they haven't played particularly dominant football. They've squeaked by. I think anybody that's not a Steeler fan, I'll tell Steelers fans, you were 11-0 because you continued to play the Bengals and all these bad teams. But like I said, you can only play the teams that are in front of you. Coming off the loss to Washington's not good, but traveling up to Buffalo for Buffalo on a primetime game where we saw they were the last team to win a Monday Night Football game, whatever this century.
Right. That's great.
Everyone had won a Monday night game, and now we get the Sunday night game, and obviously this gives the Bills a chance to shine. They've looked really, really good. So I think this is a really good game, but I think it's important that the Steelers get that running game back, and I think that could be the difference in the game.
Yeah, Connor's a big piece of that, and you're right about Buffalo. I mean, they're fun to watch. They're getting a little bit healthier on defense. Milano was back. I think you look at Buffalo, though, it's a really big game to them, too, because they're only a game ahead of the Dolphins. They're at 9-3. Dolphins are 8-4, and they still play each other before the season's over, so they can't really afford to stumble.
Yeah, and I think both the Dolphins and the Bills, they're not in a spot that they're used to being, and I still think they're looking over the shoulder at where are those New England Patriots.
They're 6-6, and they're making it interesting.
Yep.
I mean, they came off a huge win. I mean, they dominated the LA Chargers. I mean, winning 45-0 on the road. Pretty impressive against a young quarterback in Justin Herbert, who really lit up almost every team this year. I'm going to finish it off, guys, though, with the other primetime game, and that's the Monday Night Football game. That is a huge AFC North rivalry, battle, rematch, and that's the Cleveland Browns, who are at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens have struggled, guys. I mean, they're on the outside looking in right now. They're not even a playoff team. They're number 9. I think a month or so ago, we were talking about them arguably being the best team in the AFC, or one of the top 3 teams. They've kind of dominated Cleveland of late. They've covered 7 of the last 10 matchups. They beat Cleveland week 1 this year, 29-25 at home, or 29-24. But it's a big game for both these teams. But I think a much bigger game for Baltimore because of where they sit. You look at Cleveland at 9-3; they're in a great spot to be a wild card team. They could be maybe the number one wild card team right now. Baltimore is just hoping to make the playoffs. They're getting a little bit healthier, but I think the reason we're seeing them as a road favorite is because they basically have to win out, and Cleveland doesn't. So I think that's why you're seeing the Ravens a small favorite in this one.
This is their the start of their playoffs. You talk about when you get to the end of the baseball season or the end of the hockey season, and the teams that are in those 7 and 8 holes trying to make the playoffs, they've got to make that playoff run, and their playoffs start 2 weeks before the season, and so they get that every day this is our last chance feeling, and that's where the Ravens are at right now. And they have confidence against the Browns. Lamar Jackson has played really, really well.
The Browns did beat them last year, though, in Baltimore.
But he still had decent
Right,
games. Yep. But right now the Browns have all the confidence in the world, too. Coming off a road win at Tennessee, is a big win for them. Mayfield played real well.
4 touchdowns in the first half.
They're getting their guys back they were missing from COVID. The Ravens are expected to get some of their guys back. Mark Andrews will be the big piece to see if he returns there. Hollywood Brown has finally been getting in the end zone again for the Ravens, adding some additional pieces there. Obviously, when they didn't have Ingram and Dobbins, so all those guys are expected back, and I think this is going to be a treat on Monday night. This is one of those ones where make sure you get the app and get down on this game. I think the in-play will be fun on this game, and we'll have lots of props up on the game as well.
I think both primetime games. I mean, they're huge, matchups both in the AFC and NFC. I think they're fun to watch, or both in the AFC. They're going to be interesting matchups, both really low point spreads. So I think it's going to be fun. I mean, this is, as you mentioned, 10 home dogs this week. It's getting down to the end of it. We know everybody's so busy, too, with honey to-do lists and stuff going on with the holidays. Get the mobile app. We still have the up to $100 bonus going on. Come in, download the app, come in, get signed up, place your bets. We're reliable, we're dependable. We've been around for a long time. Station Casinos, that's STN Mobile. Guys, come on in and get signed up. It's really, really a good thing to have.
No, I'm looking forward to another great week. We've got NBA preseason that we'll start putting up on the board here. The college basketball season's been great. But yeah, those NBA fans, make sure you're getting back in the swing of things as we'll see some basketball start to tip off.
Guys, Jason, teaser, Chucky, but we're not done. We're going to be back with a special guest from our Last Man Standing contest. We'll be right back, gang. We're back, and I'm here with the 2020 Last Man Standing Pro Football Handicapping Contest from Station Casinos. Amber, first I want to congratulate you from everybody at Station Casinos, especially our race and sportsbook team, for a job well done. There was 111 contestants in it, and you're the winner. Congratulations for doing an outstanding job in Last Man Standing. That's awesome. So tell me, any strategy or what's kind of your secret recipe for being so successful?
Well, a strategy I look for is a good spot for the dog. And how I determine it's a good spot for him is I look at the NFL as not being too much disparity, such as college.
Right.
So much disparity, I would never touch that sport. So I looked at
So we don't have to worry about you being in the college football Last Man Standing next week, right? Okay. There'll be a lot of contestants who will be happy about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I'll never do the college. I like the pros,
Good.
NFL and NBA. Not as much disparity.
When you look at the contest card that we put out, it comes out on Wednesday, and there's been line movement between Wednesday and when the games kick off on the weekend. Does that influence you at all? Do you look at something and say, well, the contest card might have 8.5 and now it's 6.5, or if you like somebody from the beginning, is that pretty much it?
If I like somebody from the beginning and I like them to win, I look at like 4 different factors. Does the total put my dog in the game? Does it look like they're going to go back and forth and keep it close? And then I look to make sure, usually in the contest, you're getting a hook on each game. I still pick it where I like the dog to win.
Right.
But the hook is valuable.
The hook is.
I mean, if they don't win the game, the hook saves your life.
Right. Yeah, it's what about as far as anything special you're going to do with your winnings?
Yeah, actually, I started a website. I am working on it. It's already all set to go. I just have to set up the merchant account, things of that nature.
Good.
And I look forward to helping other people.
That's awesome. That's really a tremendous thing, especially now with. I know you said your birthday's this month, and Christmas is right around the corner. So that's really, really cool. Was there any close calls this year? Yeah.
I sweat the Cardinals Seattle game.
Okay, good.
I sweat that game. I thought Russell Wilson was going to get me. Because he usually does get you late. But he was up, which I felt good about, because I was like, now he's not going to come back and get me. I just have to get him.
Right.
And Kyler Murray did it.
Yep, he did. How many years have you been in the contest?
I did it last year.
Okay.
Made it down to about 7 people.
That's still a really a good feat, to be in the final 10.
Right, and there was more people.
Right.
But I have real good advice to people. Never change your mind.
That's great.
And I'll tell you, I changed my mind in that contest. I liked Baltimore to go beat Seattle at Seattle, and they did. It was a beating. And I went with the Raiders against the Packers, and I got the beating. So I should have never changed my mind. Doesn't mean I would have won last year, but it means I would have still been live and had a shot.
Right.
So what I say is never change your mind.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. Oh, I was going to ask you, if you had one thing of advice to give anybody before I get to the final question, is that what it would be? Just never change your mind?
Never change your mind on a pick.
Okay.
Never change your mind.
Okay. And I think I'd be mad at myself, and I think everybody who watches this would be really mad if I didn't ask you this last and final question. So if the contest was still going, and we were in week 14 right now, and you were still in it, who would your pick be this week?
Well, I love it that you ask, because maybe I can help people. Maybe they'll come through again.
Right.
Last week they asked me the same question at the Wild West. I told them Giants. Giants went to Seattle.
They won outright against Seattle, right? Yep.
So let's see if I can do it again.
Okay.
I like Philly. I like the Eagles.
Against the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I do. And the reason why I say that is it's time to shine.
Right.
It's time to shine. And
do you expect a lot out of their rookie quarterback, Jalen Hurts, in that game?
I just think it's time to shine.
Okay.
I like rookie quarterbacks when I see a situation as far as the Saints off 8 wins.
Right.
Okay? Off 8 wins, I look at the number, and I think with a rookie, it should be higher. So that puts me liking the Eagles, and I actually think they have a shot to win.
So you guys have heard it first here. It's the Eagles. I think as soon as we're done here, I'm going to run back to the book, call Jason, and see if we can lower that line based on that advice. Because, but that's really cool. But
I do think in the contest, I know the line would be 7.5,
right?
Because it opened at 7, and I would get the hook. So anybody going to take that game, buy the half.
Okay.
Or buy a full point.
Well, you guys heard it here first. Right. You guys heard it here first. Again, I can't thank you enough for coming in and joining our segment podcast, our bookends, excuse me. It's so much fun for us to have you here, and congratulations again. It's a tremendous feat. Over 3,211 contestants, the 2020 Last Man Standing Pro Football Champion, Amber. Congratulations again. Happy holidays to you and your family, and it's great having you here. Thank you again. Remember, it's the Eagles this week, guys. Thank you again.
Pleasure's all mine. And can I mention my website for the future?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. I look forward to meeting y'all, and look for bet2collect.com.
Great.
And I'll be happy to help.
All right, great. Congratulations again. Have a great week and holiday. Thank you so much again for joining us here on Bookends.
The pleasure's all mine. Thank you.
Hey, gang, we're back. We just finished the interview with Amber, who won the 2020 Pro Football Last Man Standing contest. What a great interview. I mean, how enthusiastic she is. She clearly follows it, has fun with it, gave out some great advice, but It's football, Jay.
Well,
it's basketball. Get
we'll
signed
see
up.
if she can stay hot with her Eagles selection this
right.
week. It's a game that we talked about and highlighted that obviously some renewed energy there in Philadelphia with Hurts taking over. So we'll see if she can put another winner out there and extend the last man standing and go 14 straight weeks with wins.
Yeah, last week she said she liked the Giants. They won outright, even though the contest was over. This week, as you mentioned, she likes the Eagles, and she's going to be back. She's going to be back for the postseason and maybe that big game on the first Sunday in February to give us some advice. So it's always great. It was fun having Amber here. Jason, Chucky, Teaser, thanks, guys. We'll see you next week on another segment of Bookends.